I am so excited to be coming to you live today to talk about my book. It is here, it is out in the world. It is called Outrunning Your Emotions, Face Your Feelings, Find Your Power, and Love Yourself. This is the back cover. And I am really, really grateful for everyone who's already purchased a copy. Thank you so much. Um, you can grab your copy and learn more by going to mightyemotions.com/book. I wanted to share with you kind of the journey that this book has gone on, but also what's in the book that's going to be important to you. What's in the book that's going to matter to you. So the subheading, Face Your Feelings, Find Your Power, and Love Yourself, is intentional, and the book is broken into three parts. So the first part is going to teach you how to face your feelings, how to make sense of what you're feeling, how to understand what emotions are, the difference between emotions and feelings, all of that. It's going to be psychology 101 broken down very, very simply. The second part of the book is how you find your power. And this is when we process our emotions and we understand how to process them and how to work with them. That's when we are in our power the most, right? When we're resisting our emotions and we're fighting them, that's when we're always giving our power away. So the second part is where I teach you emotion by emotion. We look at the core emotions, which I introduced to you in part one, and I break down for you, how to actually process them. I've created something called the Mighty Emotions method, which is essentially what has helped me and help my clients to regain control when intense emotions would come up. If you're somebody that has been labeled as super sensitive or super emotional, or you feel things really strongly, really deeply, that's a superpower, and it needs to be cultivated so that it's not overpowering your life, right? So this is going to be a guide and a framework, the Mighty Emotions method, which I break down in part two, that is so simple and practical and applicable to everyday life. There's no kind of one way, this is a one size fits all type of thing. Absolutely not. But the principles that I break down in this book are universal. And so they will be applicable in any situation. I have used this method to process so many things, both from my traumatic past and horrible things that have happened to me, but also from everyday challenges, everyday frustrations, everyday discomfort, fear, sadness, shame, everything that comes up as we're evolving and growing and moving into new phases of our lives. We need to understand how to move through this in a way that's nurturing to ourselves and not self-punishing, right? So that's what part two is about. And then part three is about nurturing ourselves, right? So part three is about how we can love ourselves. I was someone that suffered from self-hatred for a really, really long time, and I did all the kind of conventional things to find self-love, and it didn't work. I'll be honest, it just didn't work. I felt like it was lacking something. I felt like I didn't actually tap into that deep self-love. And what I explain in part three of this book is what self-love actually is, what self-compassion actually is, what self-care actually is. Self-care is about getting our core needs met. And a lot of times we don't understand what our core needs are. All of us have four core human needs: needs of the body, needs of the mind, needs of the spirit, and needs of the heart. And these needs I outline in here as physical sustenance needs, safety needs, freedom needs, meaning needs, and connection needs. So when these needs are not getting met, and I also share with you in part three what the main obstacles are that are going to show up in our life. There's four that we can expect are going to prevent us from getting our needs met, and there's something we can do about it, right? When we understand that, we're able to move through, remove the emotional blocks. We're able to take care of ourselves no matter what is going on. There's always some way that we can take care of ourselves because we focus on getting that need met instead of focusing on the obstacle itself. And I break down personal power in this book. I break down what we can control and what we can't control. I give you exercises to support the work that you're doing throughout the book, but by no means are these exercises the only way. It's really just about you having a framework, having an example of things that you can do and start to apply. And the beauty of it is that it's so incredibly simple. I really, really did my best as I was working with my editor to clarify the messages and to make sure that what I was sharing with you is just so simple, like it's so straightforward, because oftentimes when we're trying to heal, the conventional methods can be really confusing. They can be really long, drawn out processes. You know, let's go back through our childhood and do a bunch of shadow work, etc., etc. And as someone who's kind of done all of the conventional methods until I created my own method, I'm like, my life is busy. I have a job, I have a business, I have a family, I have friends, I have myself to take care of. I have so many things going on. I cannot have this incredibly long, drawn out process every time I experience an emotion. We experience emotions every single day. We experience feelings every single day. And when we don't allow ourselves to process it builds up and builds up and builds up until we eventually break down or have breakdowns. And I share about the breakdowns that I've had. So the book isn't about my story, but I do start the book in the introduction by sharing my story and my journey, opening it up with my attempted suicide in 2011 and how all the events prior to that led me to thinking that suicide was the only solution, and how I was able to heal and recover and what that taught me and how that's led me to where I am today. I share about my journey with my struggle with drug and alcohol addiction for over a decade, and I've now been almost 9 years sober and clean, and everything that that journey has taught me as well. So there's been so much personal growth and so much of my own personal experience that I've put into this book. But after the introduction, it's not about me. It's about sharing with you how it can work for you. And I want you to know that it's not just me spouting off things from my mind. I have a specialization in positive psychology. For those who don't know, I'm specialized in several trauma-informed approaches, psychological first aid from Johns Hopkins, emotional CPR. So I have these certifications, and I have done some kind of in the field work, and I'm not a licensed mental health professional by any means, but my work has often been co-signed by them because I'm just breaking down psychology one-on-one. There's a lot of pop psychology online, and a lot of it can be harmful because it lacks nuance. So I wanted things to be as clear and as nuanced, as simple as possible for people to take away and understand, and to have this book as an ongoing resource that you can turn to. So in part 2 of the book, we go through each. First, I open it up by talking about your personal power and how to cultivate personal power. And then I go into each core emotion: shame, sadness. You know, the chapter 11 is my favorite. It's on alignment and it's super beautiful. And alignment is essentially, you know, we hear that word a lot, but I break it down in terms of, you know, how we know that we're in alignment, how we can live more in alignment. And part 3 of the book will really help with that. But in each of the parts where I share with you what the core emotion is, I break down for you how to process that using the Mighty Emotions method specifically. And at the end of each chapter, I'll say when the emotion shows up. And I've included a fictional story here. And I want to explain why. Because I find that oftentimes we're consuming a lot of knowledge, but not understanding how to apply it in our lives, as I said. And there's a lot of knowledge in this book that as you read, it's not going to necessarily be applicable in the moment that you're reading it because that emotion might not be showing up for you. So I wanted to include this fictional story that I weave throughout each of the chapters on emotions, where you're going to follow this character on her journey as her emotions arise in different life scenarios. And maybe you'll relate to some of the life scenarios, and maybe you'll be like, I can't relate to that scenario. However, reading it in a fictional sense, putting yourself into the character's shoes as it's been written, is going to help you to see how simple it is to process each emotion, right? It's really going to kind of be like a aha, like a duh, like a of course, right? Kind of sensation is how I hope that you receive it. And it also kind of breaks up the, you know, research driven. I do cite a lot of research in this book as well. It's not just me spouting off my experience or, you know, theories that I have. I have done a lot of research and included it in here, and it's all cited in the end notes here. How many pages? It's like several pages of citations, as you can see. So I have included, you know, sources and different people's research as well. I wanted it to be as informative as possible, but I don't want you to get super caught up in the research. I want you to read it, absorb it, leave space to integrate it, go back to it, return to it. So another thing I want to say is that the book is not perfect, okay? And what I mean by that is even me rereading through the proof copy, I'm like, oh, I missed that. And when I say I missed that, I'm like, oh, that word got cut off in the formatting. Oh, that they added an extra word in there, like spell check or whatever, autocorrect. So you might come across some misspellings, or not misspellings, but you might come across some phrases that, you know, have an extra word here or there, and it kind of like trips you up for a second. I've done my best to get on top of that. I did have an editor who's amazing, but you know, when we are moving things from different documents and reformatting things, sometimes things get a little funny. So I say all that because it's something that I noticed rereading it, and I was like, oh, I hate when I read a book. And I mean, I don't hate it, but sometimes I read a book and I'm like, oh, that, you know, it's not perfect. It's not completely free of grammatical errors. If that's going to trip you up, I'm giving you a heads up right now. But I really hope it doesn't, because I have reread it several times. I reread pieces of it every day leading up to this release of it. And the message is clear. I'm very, very proud of, you know, I'm a self-published author, independent author. I formatted it myself. I created the cover myself. It was a long journey. It took years of writing it, rewriting it, editing it, re-editing it. And I'm really proud of it. And I say all that because if you've ever wanted to write a book, you can do a book. You can write a book too. Here I am holding my physical copy. We live in such amazing times that we don't need gatekeepers and publishers if we have a message to share with the world. And don't worry about it being perfect. And I kind of love that it's has those tiny little imperfections, because as much as I get annoyed when I see them now looking back through it, and I just know how much love has been put into this book and infused in this book, and the message is so clear, and I'm so proud of that message, and I know that it has served me, it has served my clients, I know that it can serve you. I also know that it's a very unique perspective on emotions. We're in a time where emotions are becoming more widely discussed, and emotional regulation, nervous system regulation. I also break down what that is in a very simple way. It's becoming more popular. However, people are not discussing emotions the way I teach about emotions, especially the way I outline it in this book. People are not discussing it in this way. And the reason that I think that they're not, I also explain in the first part of the book. But I think it's just that we don't understand ourselves. And we do a lot of work around self-awareness, and we can recognize our patterns, and we could say, oh, I see where this originated. But there's a difference between where something originated and the cause of it, the root cause of it. So by that, I mean, if you're in therapy and you realize that you have a pattern that originated in your childhood because you experienced something difficult, that's good information. Absolutely. You know, it's important to see like, oh, okay, this has been a pattern my whole life, and it started in this phase of my life. But that's not the same as the cause of it, right? And the cause of it always goes back to what I teach about in this book. The cause of it always goes back to your emotions that arise in a situation or a moment, the feelings that develop as a result of that, the behaviors that you take as a result of those feelings. And not processing that emotion, is what is often what leads to the pattern of behavior, because we don't actually address the root. And the root of it is outlined in part 3 very, very clearly. The root of it is our core needs. Our core needs are the root of everything. The source of every emotion that we have is an unmet need. And like I said, there's only really 4 categories of needs. Within that, you know, they're going to be different. And I also have an appendix at the back of the book where I can say, like, specifically, I expand upon the needs. So these are the headings of each need. And then within them, I break down, you know, for sustenance, things like food, water, clothing, for meaning, self-respect, clarity, discovery, right? So I expand upon it as well in the appendices. There's some additional resources for you cheat sheets for you, things like that, because I want you to just have, that extra resource. And you can also go to members at mightyemotions.com if you want more free resources, things like a needs wheel and all of that. I let you know about it in the book. But it's truly understanding our needs that leads us to live a more aligned life. When our needs are not getting met, we're always going to be dysregulated emotionally. And to a certain extent, we're always going to experience it because we can't have our needs met 100% of the time. However, like I explained in the book, we expand our window of tolerance. We expand our capacity to experience difficulty, experience challenges when we know what our needs are and how to get them met. So while the book is talking about emotions, it's really, and even in my introduction, I frame it to let you know that what healed me of my trauma wasn't just regulating my nervous system, wasn't just getting emotional relief. What healed me of my trauma was getting my needs met. And I break down as well how part of getting our needs met is independent, like we can do on our own and we can be self-sufficient, but part of it requires other people, and part of it requires that we're in the right situations, we're in the right environments, we have the right relationships and people around us. So it's not entirely your fault, right? A lot of the common misconceptions I break down in part 1 as well. Things like your thoughts create your emotions. I explain why this is incorrect. Emotions are caused by external events. Emotions aren't useful. I hear that a lot. People will say, oh, it's not useful today because you're not running from a saber-toothed tiger. I have no idea what that has to do with anything, but I break it down in here why that is harmful advice. Feelings aren't facts. I break that down as well. No, your feelings are not facts. However, they are important to look at and understand, right? So because they are filters. So this is what I break down here. Things like you just need to grow up, you just need to calm down. I break all of that down in part 3 of the book, part 1 of the book, chapter 3. So letting you know, that's some more information about the book. I plan to hopefully do some kind of free workshops around it as well for people that are reading it. I know that some book clubs are going to be reading it, so that's so exciting. And if you'd like me to come into your book club and do a Q&A, just send me an email at mightyemotions@gmail.com, and I would be more than happy to do so. Very, very exciting to answer people's questions. If you're inside of my community, my private community, which is free as well, members.mightyemotions.com, then you can just send me a DM if you have any questions as you're going through the book and reading the book. I really want to stress that I'm not the authority over your life. I'm not the authority over you. I don't claim to be. I don't want to be. I just want you to have this information because I think it would have helped me so much on my journey. It would have helped me save so much time, so much money, so much investment of energy in conventional methods that didn't actually end up serving me. And when I mean that, I don't mean therapy or anything. Therapy is an amazing resource. I mean more so that there's a lot of ways that we try to heal ourselves. There's a big self-healer, community or whatever, and movement, and it's harmful. I'll be honest, because we need to heal in community. We need to heal in aligned spaces. We need to have resources like this. We need to have other people to serve us and help us. And even as you're reading through this, I really want you to understand that it's not just you, right? Even as I share the story of the fictional character and the things that she's going through, and a lot of it, she's processing it on her own. The actions she takes, you'll often notice involve other people, because it's important. It's important. And I'll explain more about why that is in part 3. So yes, Outrunning Your Emotions. It's available now. If you know someone who struggles with their emotions, if you are someone who struggles with their emotions, I think this book would be really, really helpful for you, really, really supportive. And the last thing I'll say before I hop off here is that I had someone say to me, before the book was launched, I was talking about it with someone, and they made a comment about it not being an uplifting book or not being a positive or happy read or whatever the case may be. Okay, it's not a fiction book. There is a fictional story in here to kind of break it up. But yeah, it is nonfiction. It is self-improvement, well-being, self-help, whatever the category is, personal development. On the back, I say a revolutionary approach to personal development, because I believe that personal development doesn't exist without empathy. And a lot of times, the advice will be super harsh, super critical, don't have a victim mentality, etc., shaming kind of advice. And I just find that that's not how we support people to grow. We support people through encouragement and empowering them with the power that's within them. It's something that also, was part of my practitioner training for emotional CPR. And so understanding that we are humans, and we have these amazing instincts called emotions, and they help us make good choices in our lives, and they help us survive, but not just survive, they help us thrive when we know how to work with them and understand them. And this book is about emotions, but that doesn't mean that it's discouraging. In fact, I wrote it in a way where I know that it's going to empower you. I know that it's going to encourage you. I know that it's going to help you be kinder to yourself. That is the purpose of this book. I want you to understand that as a human being, you deserve care, you deserve love, you deserve to be treated well by yourself first, by other people, and that your emotions don't have to control you. They don't have to consume your life. They don't have to become these blocks to your happiness, your quote unquote negative emotions, which don't exist. But these are tools, these are assets that we all have. They are gifts. So I really want you to understand, if you're thinking, oh, that sounds like a depressing read. It's not. It's actually a very, very empowering and encouraging read, because it is what has helped me. It is what has saved me. And it wouldn't have if it was depressing. It wouldn't have helped me. It wouldn't have helped my clients, right? Everything that we do at Mighty Emotions is about emotional empowerment. And it's about personal development with empathy. And it's about being human first and being kind to ourselves. So that is what you can expect from this book. And I'm just going to leave you with a little paragraph from the end of the book, where I say, life can get better for all of us, both in what we experience and in how we feel about it. Please give yourself grace. Be gentle with yourself. Return to this book as many times as you need. Return to it when you need help understanding how to help someone who might be communicating through their behaviors or words that they have unmet needs. Listen to your emotions. Trust them. Because, like Rumi famously wrote in the poem, The Guest House, the dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. Love, your coach, Jiselle. I hope you get your copy. I hope that you love it. If you do, please leave a review on Amazon. Send me a message. DM me on Instagram at mighty_emotions. Message me on Facebook. Leave a comment under this video wherever you are watching it. And with that, I wish you a beautiful, beautiful day. And I'm so excited to hear from you soon. See you next time.